Hello, I'm Amjad Ahmed, the chairman of the Empower ME initiative at the Atlantic Council. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our event, Female Leadership in Bahrain, Progress, Potential, and Sustainability. It's a great privilege to open an event that spotlights a topic so close to our mission, the advancement of women, a cause that is so important not just to our organization, but to societies worldwide. The achievements of Bahraini women are indeed remarkable. One of the most promising trends is evident in education. Bahraini women constitute approximately 83% of tertiary school enrollment. Additionally, Bahraini women represent about 54% of the public sector workforce and hold around 45% of leadership positions in official state agencies. In the private sector, women comprise about 35% of the workforce and hold 17% of board seats and occupy 35% of managerial roles. In the political landscape, Bahraini women have made their mark by constituting 20% of the total members of the Council of Representatives and 25% of the Shura Council. According to the Global Gender Gap Report in 2023, Bahrain achieved the second highest gender parity among the Arab countries. We must understand and acknowledge the factors contributing to such substantial progress as we applaud these achievements, but we must also examine the continuing challenges. Today's discussion will delve into these factors alongside the initiatives and strategies in Bahrain that foster gender equality and what can be replicated regionally. Additionally, we will explore the primary challenges women in Bahrain encounter professionally, which are similar in many ways to their counterparts regionally and globally. Our objective is to address the persistent challenges, biases, and gender stereotypes that impede the progress and representation of women leadership roles, particularly within the private sector. We are honored to have two esteemed keynote speakers before we delve into our panel discussion. His Excellency Sheikh Abdullah bin Rashid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Bahrain to the United States, and David Brownstein, the Deputy Chief of Mission at the US Embassy in Manama. We will begin with Ambassador Al Khalifa, who has been in his position since 2017. He started at the Royal Court, where he worked and oversaw educational, medical, and social affairs. He then joined the General Organization for Youth and Sports as the Director of Planning and Follow-up, and was later appointed Director of Financial and Human Resources. In 2010, he was appointed Governor of the Southern Governorate of the Kingdom of Bahrain, the largest in size with the highest potential for development. As part of a collaborative effort between the Kingdom of Bahrain and the United States, Sheikh Abdullah launched a partnership between the Governorate and the American nonprofit organization DARE to develop and deploy an anti-violence and anti-addiction program delivered by trained community police officers in local elementary and secondary schools. The initiative would later transform into a national program sponsored by the Kingdom's National Anti-Drug Committee, on which Sheikh Abdullah serves. Sheikh Abdullah played an active role in drafting the National Anti-Drug Strategy launched in 2016 in conjunction with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. And now, here's Sheikh Abdullah.
Greetings, everyone. It is my pleasure to be joining you today at the inauguration of the Bahraini Women's Innovators Fellowship year-long program. The Atlantic Council and Georgetown University are some of the most prestigious global institutions, and the Kingdom of Bahrain is proud to be linked with this partnership that will see 22 Bahraini women entrepreneurs build on their leadership and executive skills. I want to thank the US Embassy in Bahrain for their wonderful sponsorship of this initiative. My dear friend, Ambassador Steve Bondi continues to do a great job bridging our communities while we navigate the complexities of challenges ahead. I also look forward to meeting the cohorts, as well as the mentors and professors from the United States and the Middle East, who will support our participants looking to scale their startups with the assistance of leading American and Middle Eastern institutions. You see, here at the Embassy of the Kingdom of Bahrain in the United States, we continue to engage with institutions operating in the fields of academia, policymaking, and commerce. And I'm glad that this program not only consolidates these important fields under one roof, but will also expose some of our best Bahraini women startup entrepreneurs to the right people and the right places. Mentoring, workshops, and networking with government officials, policy experts, and academics is a proactive way to increase Bahraini women's economic participation. But we didn't get here by accident. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa's insightful vision of progress for women was cemented decades ago when His Majesty established the Kingdom's Supreme Council for Women. And since its founding, Her Royal Highness Princess Sabika bint Ibrahim Al Khalifa has chaired the Council and championed a remarkable transformation in both legislative and societal protections for Bahraini women. With 2 decades of work, Council has become the primary advocate of women's rights and has been responsible for setting the general policy to advance this agenda. Therefore, the Council initially started a national plan that sought the advancement of women in society by ensuring family stability over short-term economic opportunities. They did this through codifying family laws and implementing awareness programs. Today, the Kingdom of Bahrain is moving fast to include Bahraini women's participation in the national economy and boosting our GDP. The Supreme Council for Women adopted its 2nd national plan that supports women's entrepreneurship, career opportunities, and the very important financial independence. As a result, today Bahraini women account for about 43% of the total labor force on the back of institutional and legal reforms that resulted in doubling the number of women participation since the turn of the century. Over the last 3 years, Bahrain passed legislation related to pay equity, entrepreneurship, and pensions, while also enhancing women's physical and psychological well-being and more protections from domestic violence. And our access to digital inclusivity remains high in terms of availability, affordability, relevance, and readiness. Bahrain has seen major improvements on all fronts. Internet access, digital skill levels, cultural acceptance, and policy improvement support have upheld Bahrain's digital infrastructure that will benefit our cohorts. Currently, Bahrain is a leader in technology diversity in the region, and we are working very hard to improve digital inclusion in our economy. Bahrain is also ranked first in national female inclusion policies on the global level, and our government action plan includes digital skills training for women and encourages women and girls to study STEM. Therefore, with today's emerging digital platforms, supported by a strong digital infrastructure, Bahraini women are enabled to stay connected while having the flexibility that promotes a healthy work-life balance. In closing, I want to thank the Atlantic Council's Empower ME initiative and the Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business and the US Embassy in Manama for supporting our women entrepreneurs by building their leadership and executive skills with the goal of scaling up their startups. And to the cohorts, I wish you all the best. And remember, there is nothing stopping you from getting on those Forbes lists. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we want to thank His Excellency for his participation and his kind words. And now I want to welcome David Brownstein, the Deputy Chief of Mission at the US Embassy in Manama. Before Manama, he served as the Senior Representative for Northeast Syria, and prior as the Office Director for Near East Affairs within the Bureau of Conflict and Stabilization Operations. He served as Deputy Chief of Mission and Charge d'Affaires at US Embassy Bangui from 2017 to 2019. Previous assignments with the Department of State include political and economic counselor at U.S. Embassy Yaoundé, deputy coordinator and instructor for the Foreign Service Officer Orientation course at the Foreign Service Institute, National Intelligence University, Defense Intelligence Agency, staff assistant to the Assistant Secretary for Near East Affairs, counselor officer in Baghdad, Iraq, and political officer in Rabat, Morocco. Over to you, David.
Anything else, David?
No, I think we're good. I hope it's okay if I stand. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I have a hard time sitting up from New York. As you heard, I'm David Brownsley. You've heard enough about me. Listen, we are incredibly proud, and I am incredibly proud to support this inaugural WIN Fellowship here at Bahrain. This is an exciting partnership for us with the Atlantic Council. We've seen the work that the Atlantic Council WIN Fellowship has done in Saudi Arabia, and we're incredibly excited to launch this here in the Kingdom of Bahrain for exactly the reasons that His Excellency Ambassador talked about. Bahrain is a place where when you plant a seed, it flourishes. And Bahrain is a place where it has fundamentally done in real ways the things needed to promote women's entrepreneurship as well in society. I want to thank His Excellency the Ambassador, Abdullah bin Rashid Al Khalifa, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Bahrain to the US. Ferder Kempi, the President and CEO of the Atlantic Council. Amjad Ahmad, the Chairman of Empower ME. Lynn Monzer, the Associate Director of the WIN Fellowship. And our Bahraini partners here in FinTech, specifically Suzy Al-Zirah, Chief Operating Officer in the Bahrain FinTech Bay, and most importantly, our distinguished panelists. Most importantly, though, to you, the program participants. This, it always kind of cracks me up and say like an honored speaker. No, I'm not an honored speaker. This is an honor to speak to you. This is a day to celebrate you, and this is a day to recognize what you've done and what you're going to do. So thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak with you and to share with you this moment. Why does the embassy care? Why are we here? Look, first and foremost, we're allies. But more than that, we're friends. But again, why this program? Our goals is shared with the government of Bahrain. We want Bahrain to be peaceful, safe, and prosperous. You can't do that without all members of societies participating, contributing, and you certainly can't do that without women. So this is fundamentally both a moral and a strategic interest. We're doing it because it works, because you work. All of our exchange programs that we support are intended to support this goal. Everyone is intended to help Bahrainis expand their educational horizons, develop even greater professional expertise, and nurture people-to-people connections with the United States. Ambassador Bondi says, and many of you have met him, that, can you hear me? Is this working? Okay, good. That admirals and ambassadors come and go, but the connection between neighbors and friends endure. Look, we've had some pretty successful program over the last few years. With First Stage Bahraini Businesswomen in our collaboration with the Academy for Entrepreneurs, with the Bahrain Entrepreneurs Organization. We also support programs to help women develop leadership and networking skills in the workplace. So this is a logical extension, building the base, the middle, the advance. In this partnership with the Atlantic Council, we're deepening this cooperation in the economic sphere. Political stability comes from economic success. So we cannot have a bright future if we don't have a strong economic foundation. I've participated in a lot of negotiations. You've heard from the very important resume, Central African Republic, Syria. And a couple of times I was involved in pretty successful political negotiations that failed because we didn't address the underlying economics and most importantly, the aspects of inclusion and participation. So this is a year-long fellowship at the McDonough School of Business. And one of the things I'm really excited about, a really dear friend of mine, a neighbor at Georgetown, Ellen Eisenberg, is actually going to be one of your mentors. So she's like, I was like, yeah. So I want to take a big picture today and send it to her, make sure that she's ready to speak. She's amazing. She's amazing and exactly the type of person she's going to click with you and exactly the type of person who is the right mentor. An incredibly creative woman who, with nothing, created a business that they ended up selling for almost $1 billion. So this is someone who's going to be fantastic. We're proudly supporting Bahrain's national strategy on gender equity and equality. We're proudly standing behind you with these women entrepreneurs. We had a meeting this week, the ambassador and Linda, and our political economic counselor, Elizabeth Hatting, with the Secretary General of the Council Forum. And we're launching through that meeting a new degree of engagement based on what we're hearing from the council that the council wants, not what we say they need. This is about, we are partners in this. How can we help? Look, more importantly, not more important, but equally important, I was raised by a single mom. I'm married to a woman who's smarter than me. I have a daughter. My whole life has been built around and built by, and I have been raised by strong women. I would not be here if not for the women in my life. My mother, my aunt, my godmother, and the people I work with at the embassy, Linda, Elizabeth. So for me, this is not just a question of like, yes, we've got to check the box. This is fundamental to society. Many parts of the world, including the United States, the place of women in society is still not assured. It's still evolving. In Bahrain, it's still evolving, but Bahrain has done more than many countries I've been in. And we want to be part of that because it's done with an open heart and it's done with a recognition of what it means for the country, but it's done because also recognition of what it means for kind of citizens of humanity. We want to be part of that. So thank you again for letting me be part of your day today, for letting me take some time to spend with you. It's an honor. I wish you nothing but success. I say this with all sincerity. We're going to do all we can to make sure that you can rise on your own merits. I'm going to link you with Ellen. The team here is here for you. When you come back, and many of you know this, once you're a participant in some form of US exchange, you come back, you're not rid of us. You're not part of the alumni family. We're invested in your success. We're invested in your future. Whether you like it or not, we'll be for the long haul. So thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, David, and I appreciate you joining us today. I'm going to introduce a woman who needs no introduction. She's been such a great partner to us. Susie Zahra, Chief Operating Officer from Bahrain FinTech Bay. Susie has a great background in education and marketing. After earning her master's in business management from Regent's University in London, she spent 14 years working in higher education in Damascus, Syria. In 2011, she joined the American University of Science and Technology faculty in Beirut. Susie's passion for triathlon, which I didn't know, led to her to join the management of the Bahrain and Dubai Ironman 70.3 Middle East Championship as the head of marketing and communication. She's a certified technical official with the International Triathlon Union. Before this role, she was the head of marketing for Brink Patelco IoT Hub, an accelerator for IoT hardware based in Bahrain. In addition to her professional role, Susie's actively involved in the community. She's the co-founder of Pace Bahrain, a sports management company that has organized many local races in Bahrain. She serves as treasurer of the board of the Bahrain Gymnastics Federation. Susie's also a member of the advisory boards, including Women in Tech, Bahrain Chamber, and the Curriculum Advisory Committee for the University of Bahrain's College of Business Administration and Bahrain Polytechnic. Over to you, Susie.
Nothing how you must do that. First of all, I'd really like to thank the Atlantic Council and Jed and Parmi, Lynn, all of you guys have done such a fantastic job with this program. I was so excited because I've been following you from Saudi Arabia I know there are cohorts out there, by the way, we're not alone here. We're about 70, 80 people online from Saudi Arabia and UAE. So we kind of address it to everyone here that, I saw this come up in Saudi Arabia and I was like, this has to happen in Bahrain. And I'm so happy to be sitting here to seeing this happen in Bahrain. And for us at Bahrain FinTech Bay, this is very much the core. We do a lot of work in women diversity. We have reports. We have our own. We have some of the people here actually are part of our cohorts in our Standard Chartered Women in Tech program. So it's an area that's very deep to our heart. So we are super thrilled to be in-country partners with this initiative. And as well, we worked with Georgetown University for many years. We headed their FinTech course here in Bahrain, and we hope to be bringing that back as well eventually. So thank you so much. I'm going to just, start to introduce my panel members. I know we have are we good with time? We still have the half an hour? Yes? I hope so. Okay.
Take it.
And take it. Okay. First of all, just for you guys out there as well, because I know that we have a lot of regional people, just to let you know, Bahrain is actually, historically, we are one of the first places in the GCC to have schools for girls. So in the 1920s, we already had schools for women at that time in history. We also were the first in the GCC to have voting rights, as well as voting and the places in parliament and being able to stand up in those sort of actions. So we're very proud of all of our women initiatives. And then we also have a member here from the Supreme Council of Women that is here to support. Their initiative has been phenomenal with advancements of women. This sort of legislation that we have is absolutely brilliant. But without further ado, because I know this is about everyone here has some fantastic panelists, I will introduce, and I also got, we've got Holly online from the US. I'll start with Nidala Bashir, since you're next to me, who's Head of Public Sector Innovation at AWS, Amazon Web Services in the MENA region. Welcome, Nidala. And then I have Marwa Saad, who's the Executive Director, Human Capital from Talakat, Bahrain. And then, of course, I have Jordana, Head of Human Resources of Gulf and Asia and Global Head of DI Invest Corp. And up in the screen, you see we have Holly Grego, I hope I said your name correctly, Global Wealth Investments North America, Head of Strategy and Platforms of Citi. So we have a great bunch of people from all kinds of, and I'm so happy to have a man as well here as well, because I know I keep talking about us women, but we need no stress, no stress at all. So just going back to, this year, we were voted second Arab country in terms of gender in the reports of 2023, that we were the second Arab country that had, in terms of gender equality. So what I want to ask, and that's kind of open to all of you, but we can break it down because we have quite a few questions. I mean, what are the factors behind this? Nidal, would you like to start? What are the factors between us having that sort of ahead of everyone else in the Middle East?
Thank you, everybody. Good evening. If you look at the numbers and why it is there, it doesn't come from vacuum. I give you an example. When you talk about, let's say hiring, if we hire 65% of the new hires are females, and I give you an example. The last 15 hired, if you know that Amazon Web Services, they have leadership principles, and one of them is strive to be Earth's best employer. This should be translated on ground. And if I tell you there was a taboo in the data centers to hire engineers, female engineers, and this is like a hard job. Now, if I tell you the fact that we have 15 female engineers, electrical, mechanical, security, and networking engineer working at the data center. So this is something to show you that these type of jobs is not anymore more hard for the women. So this is something. If you look at, for example, if one of my colleagues, I came to the office, and this is how hiring, I found a female called Mariam. She was 8 months pregnant. And I was surprised, and she told me this is her first day, and she was new hire at 8 months. And that's why this will reflect to another thing, which when we come to promotions, the last 5 promotions out of 7 were female, which is the last batch. 5 out of 7 got promoted. Now, if you come to, I have the time to talk about it, but if you say maternity leave, we give Amazon Web Services give 14 weeks, and the law gives 8, so we give 14. And there's also additionally 6 weeks for paternity leave. So this is also additionally to help the mother. Additionally, we have a mother Zoom in our offices here in Bahrain. That gives you the how it's the hiring, the promotion, even the benefits to help women there. That gives the part of the formula that how it is happening. Also, I think we have inclusion and diversity and equity chapter in MEA in Dubai, and we have here a representative, and we have here someone of my colleagues here working with Doris with the Women in Bahrain. So this in general shows you how this is happening for gender equality in our equity in Bahrain. Thank you.
Or would you like to absolutely. Thank you, Susie and Nidala. I think for me, it's the most infinite resource on this planet is human potential and human capital. And I believe Bahrain has demonstrated an early understanding of that concept, and hence has emerged as the second best ranked Arab country when it comes to gender equality. And I think this is attributed to 2 key factors. One is the mindset that is focused on growth, where both men and women understand and value the roles that they play both socially and professionally. And that shared understanding contributes to the prosperity and growth of the nation. And the second key factor, I believe, is the robust methods through a combination of reforms and policies and programs that have been rolled out that have created a level playing field for all genders to thrive. I mean, we see the Supreme Council for Women and their proactiveness in formulating policies and programs that could promote inclusiveness. There's His Royal Highness Sheikh Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, and the directive of basically increasing women representation on boards. And then you see the Central Bank of Bahrain responding to that by changing provisions to increase the representation of women on boards. So the most recent and most exciting initiative has been the Bahrain Defense Force, and then opening the doors for women to volunteer for the reserve force. So I think it's a journey. And as we reflect on Bahrain's journey, we realize that it's really not gender equality, but it's the tapping into human potential, investing in human capital, and it just becomes a natural progression for the kingdom.
Thank you for that. Well, just going on to that, moving on, we were talking about some of the successful projects and the policies that we have, maybe Jordana as well, then we can go on to Holly as well's opinion. What are some of the successful projects that we have? You mentioned some of these new ones. In general, in Bahrain, what kinds of, do you see that highlights in Bahrain, things that we could share with the region that's online as well as the folks here?
Thank you. So there's two things. If you listen to what Marwa said, what Nidal said, what every representation, what our ambassador in the US said about the statistics of Bahrain, the reason that I think we're number one, we've come out number two, which doesn't surprise me, for all the things that we just said of what the government is doing. It's also that women going into the workforce can see the potential. We're not sitting there like other countries going, okay, so, at the grassroots level, you'll always find women. It's as you go up the ranks, they unfortunately, leave the workforce. A lot of them don't come back. In Bahrain, it's different. You can become a minister. You can be in Shura Council. You can be the CEO. You can be the head of government and private sector companies because you can see that we have that representation in Bahrain. So we're not sitting there going into the workforce thinking, oh, what's the point? It's impossible. It's a boys' club. No, we've got that there. I think what we're doing, we've said a pretzel amount of things that we're doing, but I think what we're doing well and what people in the region can learn from what we're doing is focus more on the women. Celebrate the success stories of women. The more women see representation, the more they're likely to also try to reach those standards. Marwa mentioned about boards. Focus more as well on having women on your boards. Focus more on highlighting the great success stories that we have in Bahrain. Outwardly, will encourage others. People imitate, right? That's the biggest form of flattery. So I think the more that we show what we're doing, the more you will see a domino effect.
Wonderful. Holly, I just want to hear from you. We haven't heard your voice at all. This is all welcome to everything.
Yes, of course. So first of all, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate the invitation. And look, I think that what I'm hearing here is, a few different things. One is allyship, right? So as women, we can do as much as we can in order to support one another and to engage and to really push one another into more senior roles within the workforce. But without our allies across the board, it's very difficult to succeed. So wonderful to see all of the men in the room supporting women and women's initiatives. And look, similarly to how we manage things at City, it sounds like Bahrain is very focused on recruiting, retaining, and supporting women. To your point around women leaving the workforce, that's also something that we battle with at City and in New York. And in the US. And so creating ways to support women in the workforce, creating mechanisms that allow them to be working mothers, that allow them the flexibility to find that success, to take that path to seniority is also really important. So I think all of those mechanisms that you have in place are truly going to create the success and support the success you've already had.
Thank you so much. Despite all of the success we've had as well, we're still going through hurdles, and it's the same here. And we also have hurdles in the rest of the world. It's still an ongoing effort to get to where we're going. What would you say are some of the primary impediments in terms of, and what can we do to try to like keep it going and make the changes happen even more than we are talking now? We've said we've got some great things in Bahrain, but how can we continue like to get to implement the things that we can to go ahead? And then it goes to the States as well, to Holly, to you as well. Please go ahead. I think you want to start.
So there was a recent, I think this is a very interesting fact. There was a recent UNDP report, like literally 3 weeks ago, that said 9 out of 10 people are biased against women. 9 out of 10. So in this room, count the 10, including women. So women are biased against women and men are biased against women, right? And we all know it, everyone's laughing. And I think that is the biggest impediment that we have. We sometimes, it's very easy to play the blame game, right? So we can blame the men and say, you know, well, they started in the workforce earlier and there's a boys club and there's whatever.
I love to blame the men.
I am happy to blame them sometimes, but we also put it on ourselves. We've got to support each other more. I agree exactly with what I said. We've got to be allies, right? And I think also culturally in this region, we still as women take on that caretaker role. There is still this, you know, bias against, oh, you know, she's a mother, so she's not going to be able to do this. She's this, so she can't do that. And on the flip side, by the way, so in HR, and no matter what can apply to this, like we're dealing with all different types of people, there's bias against the working mother and the ones that are not married and don't have kids. Well, they're not married, they don't have kids, so, you know, they'll do the extra work and they'll stay the late hours and they can take on and then the other ones get a path, but then they're also being passed on. So I think us talking about it more, communication to me is the biggest key in this. And I think just highlighting the successes that we are doing and supporting each other a bit more will get us over that.
Would you like that?
Yeah, I mean, and just to sort of add on what Jordan was saying, I think, especially after the pandemic, I see the challenges are not women exclusive, right? I see challenges both on the men's side as well as on the women's side. And I think just to address your questions on what strategies to bridge the gap, I think we need to ensure that our solutions are designed in a gender inclusive way, right? We can not continue to develop solutions for men and develop solutions for women. I think it needs to be gender inclusive because the challenges are on both ends, especially after COVID, and we've seen that. And so whatever we can do, I think as institutions, we owe it to society to design initiatives and address challenges on individual pieces rather than look at gender. So whatever solutions we come up with should address individual needs, and I think that's how we promote a workplace that is more inclusive.
When we look at the numbers and the feedback coming from, say, my employees, especially in the region, because we said there are a few things a little bit different in the region than worldwide, but we started a program for the psychological aspects like the mental health. We have a program called the Employee Assist Program that has counselors, consultants, they can help with mental health and all these things, that one thing. And also we started another program in Bahrain, which is the first batch called Restart, which means to help women and even men to come back to the market or the IT, which called Restart, that some of them like has been away for a few days, several days, and she's been away. She wants to go back, and there are several programs to get them trained and certified for 3 to 4 months and go back to the market. So there are several programs. We are doing well. I'll mention something a little bit. We ran several hackathons, and most of them ran Bahrain. I ran many of them. So once we wrote a proposal to the Minister of Youth and Sport, and I put in that to train internship 6, and I put 3 male and 3 female. So one of the team says, "Why did you fix the numbers? Why don't you leave it open and let the best win?" I said, "Let me tell you, I'm a little bit worried about the boys because the girls has been wiping up all the positions. They've been the first in the hackathons. So I just want to keep a little bit room for the boys." So that's what I'm saying, that they are doing very well. And we have also in the program Restart, we have a target to have 70% of women out of the program to get trained. So this is what we're trying to do, is to add the percentage and the program. So
that was my next question to you. What kind of innovations is AWS? What are you doing towards, to promoting that in the workspace?
If I may, in the Cloud Innovation Center, I run a program in 2 innovation centers, one in the University of Bahrain and one in Bahrain Polytechnic. And we train, we take solve real world problems, we take senior graduates and senior programs in the education center. We train them and help them to get certified, solve the real world problems, and we help them to a program that they start their own career, or get certified, or they start their own companies. And we have a program working with the two incubators, with Startup Bahrain, with the Tamkeen, in order to help them and ease the road, because every graduate has an issue in the first 6 to 9 months is the salary, is getting job. So we funded a program that with Tamkeen, they funded 1 year for them to start their own job. So she has a salary and starting her own company. And this is how we want them to have jobs, but it's better if they can create jobs. So this is one of the programs that will work on it. Besides the Restart, plus I'm presenting and working with several schools even, because if you want to build that chain, it should come from the school, from the university, So we work with, we hosted for girls and for female in our offices, our called Python Academy. Then I did the technology workshop for STEM and STEAM, that to help them career pathways, to choose the career pathways and explain to them it's not a taboo anymore. It's not boys club. It's like when they see, and I brought some of my colleagues. One of them I was mentoring. She's now my colleague. Now she's a leader and she got promoted. Maram Skafi, the last Maram Skafi. If I say Fida, if I say Faida, if I say Aisha, if I say all of these, Sarah, all of these they got promoted and now they are leading. So that's the difference and that change we want to make. So these are the programs that we're doing. Thank you.
Fantastic. Holly over there in the States, I would like to ask you, like, how in terms of financial institutions, a city, how are you facilitating women leadership roles within, where you work in wealth management or in general in terms of city?
Right, absolutely. So at Citi, we're the only large U.S. bank that has a female CEO, Jane Fraser. Also, over 50% of our board is female. So we are highly invested in diversity and encouraging women across the board to participate in senior level leadership roles across the institution. However, we're also deeply invested in recruiting from the most junior levels. So we're reaching out to universities and understanding what our analyst class looks like and ensuring that that we have a true group of diverse individuals coming in the door. So that as we continue to promote them throughout the ranks, we continue to see diversity. We're also very transparent about our numbers. So we have published, and we were one of the first banks to publish our unadjusted gender pay gap, as well as the adjusted gender pay gap. And what it showed us is that we definitely have work to do in terms of the more senior ranks and promoting women into those roles and some of our more diverse candidates into those seats. But it's, when I think about the programs that are really important, there is this concept called the broken rung. And it's the idea that, diverse members of our community are missing that first opportunity to get promoted to the first level within their career beyond that introductory position that they've taken on. And so once you miss that first promotion, it gets harder and harder to get promoted into the more mid to senior levels. And so by fixing that, by understanding who is in our community that we can promote, and how do we get ourselves promoted? In my experience, it's really important to advocate for yourself and ensure that you're on the right career path and that you have the right people behind you, whether it's through mentorship or sponsorship. And at Citi, we have a lot of programs, whether formal or informal, that have been really wonderful in terms of supporting that career growth. Through my experience, I've participated in both. I've been mentored and I've been a mentee, and have benefited from having that infrastructure. Those are the things that really support you throughout your career. So those are just some of the things that we have done as, both as an institution and what I've experienced as an individual, which has supported me in my career growth.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point for those of you in Bahrain. So we conducted a Bahrain Fintech Day, a research report on women in fintech a couple of years ago. And one of the gaps we decided is that one of the things that we have lacking in the Middle East is the lack of female role models and female mentors. So that is something we are actively working on. And I think you should definitely, if you're out there and, you are in a position to mentor, that is something that a lot of women, and if I think about my past and my age, my old age, is that my mentors were all men, whether it was a coach, whether it was somebody, and it's great. I'm not saying there's anything, but it's also lovely to have a woman that is successful, that you can go to, and that you can also talk about everything from the issues that you have balancing work and life and all of that. So that's interesting that you say that, Holly, because in Bahrain that's something we're working on developing is our sort of mentorship roles. I'm going to you as well.
Really quickly, what I would say about the role models is that where you can't find someone who has the same life as you, who looks exactly like you, find your role models where you can. I came up through this business through sales and trading in markets on a trading desk, and there were very few women that I could see as my role models that I wanted to follow and understand. And so I just picked role models, people who had success in their careers, men, women, it didn't matter. So yes, it's a huge gap, and I completely agree with you. But finding your role models where you can, I think, will also give you that success.
Thanks for that. That's really good advice. Thanks, Holly. Thanks. Mara, would you want to talk a little bit about Mumtalakat and your strategies and sort of the programs that you're involved with to your diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, so as the sovereign wealth fund of the Kingdom of Bahrain, I believe Mumtalakat plays a vital role when it comes to shaping, forming, and influencing, gender equality, inclusiveness, and just looking at some of the numbers, our local portfolio companies are key contributors to Bahrain's economy. So we're talking about 8 to 10% contribution to GDP, offering over 12,000 job opportunities across the kingdom. And so whatever initiatives or strategies that we've adopted were really designed to make a real impact. Now, if I had to look at Mumtalakat and what we've done, I think it starts with how we attract, recruit, and retain talent. For us, it's very important that we hire for mindset, that we hire for attitude, that we hire for attributes, and we hire for what's possible. We hire people with attitude for what's possible. And this has resulted in an organization that we consider not only as high performing, but is also a human-centric organization, one that looks at individuals as people and not only as employees. And other practices that we have pushed is practices where we meet people at different stages of both their careers and lives. And so whether you're early on in your career and trying to explore different opportunities, or you're navigating the challenges of parenthood and work, we have adopted the principle of allowing managers to manage. And that principle has come a long way, because when you push that delegation or that authority for managers, they can really bring out the best in the people. So I think that principle has really helped Mumtalakat. And it's been evident in our workforce composition. Women hold 67% of senior positions at Mumtalakat. Over 42% of the workforce are women at Mumtalakat. If we have to zoom into our portfolio companies, half of our majority-owned portfolio companies have women representation. And if we look at certain benefits that we offer, there's increased childcare. When we look at professional development, we approach it very holistically. So it's not only training, but for us, it's the experience, it's the exposure. We have more than half of our employees sit on boards at a very young age, and we've taken the risk, and we're very proud to have taken that risk. And then if we look at benefits, healthcare, dependent education, those are offered equally, regardless of seniority and regardless of grade. We still have a long way to go, but I think we're committed as an organization to continue to evolve our practices, challenge status quo, and progress towards promoting further increases.
It's wonderful. Madam, as well, I was also thinking about your school has also, because you've also got international sort of footage here. What about your strategies in terms of inclusion and diversity?
So I feel like I'm going to echo Marwa a lot, but we are very similar as organizations in terms of being fair across. So one of the biggest things is, we are the same, that there's no difference in benefits, medical, etc., across grades and levels. That might seem something very basic, but that's actually not very common. Usually see a differentiation. We've omitted that. One thing that we look at, so I look at DI globally, and I can tell you that obviously, country to country, region to region is very, very different. So we don't look at it with the gender eye, we look at it more on the diversity aspect. So one thing that we've done that's been very successful for us is 50% of any recruitment we do, your shortlist has to be diverse. Now, diverse does not mean women. In my India, for example, in my India and China and Singapore offices, we're almost a 50-50 split. It can be socioeconomic background, ethnicity, religion. These things matter, right? The whole point for Investcorp, what we believe makes us successful and makes us, we're very proud of being a homegrown Bahrain brand that's taken on the world. We're 50 billion AUM now, and we started here. So we're very proud of that. But the way that we've done that is making sure that everybody has a voice. It's attracting is easy, retaining is more difficult. It's very easy for people to want to come in because, it's Investcorp. But to stay, you've got to create an environment that people feel like they belong. And I think we've done that with our shortlist. We only hire for merit. So you've got to be worthy of the role. The diversity aspect is one element where we push people more to look for the diverse candidate, because it's very easy to say they don't exist. Like Nadal said about the IT, a few years ago, women would not have been your engineers, right? Now, today they are. So when you push people to look that much further, it makes a difference. We have ERGs, employee resource groups. We have one for the under 30s. They are at a different stage of their professional career to those that are older. So it's looking at that, and one for women. But my biggest thing I would say, which goes back to what you said in the beginning, David, right? About listening to what they want. That is our biggest key at Investcorp. We ask the people, what do you want? What can we do better? What are you looking for? And we tweak it. Not everything we can solve for, but by listening to what they want, we can adapt regionally, globally, per office, per department, to get those quick wins, to make people feel like this is an environment that cares and that wants people to stay.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Holly. Thank you guys for being here on the panel. We're still actually open for questions. I'm just trying to figure out how this works. Lynn, over there, I've got the question thing on my link on my phone. I'm just trying to think. We have the audience, like I said, we're not just here in Bahrain, but we can start with questions from you guys. Do you have questions for this amazing panel? Doris, I'm going to. Yeah. Doha, can I have it's not. Yeah.
Thank you all for a wonderful, informative discussion. Great panelists. My name is Doris Martin, the Ambassador of Women Tech Bahrain Chapter and CEO of D. Martin Consultancy. Our focus is on, our objective is gender equality in terms of promoting technology in Bahrain for all, male or female, and in different methodology, could be through activities, through partnership, through events, and through programs. My question is, why do we still have a struggle in getting women IT decision-making positions, leadership positions, CEOs? It's still thin. We don't have that women in that position. We have women in the leadership position, but not as CEOs globally. I'm not talking just Bahrain, but globally, we're still struggling today, women CEOs. Could anybody give me an answer? Yes.
Explain yourself.
Yeah.
Actually,
Well,
actually, maybe you're right to stage, but maybe we had IBM, we had CEO that was female, and many of them, it was Yahoo.
But it's only 3%
Yes,
worldwide. That's per
But what-
World Economic Forum.
I agree.
Yeah.
But what I meant that now you had the gap between the entry and the mid, and as you said, leadership to go there. So we had the gap, and now it's being filled. So it takes a little bit time to be filled, but it's not the lack of capability, skills, or knowledge of that. It was a bigger gap earlier, and now it's bridging. If I can tell you, just if you said the leadership, and now it's happening, I can tell you our HR leader is a female, our legal leader is a female, our professional service is a female, our marketing is a female, our PR is a female, and our event manager is a female in region. And that's what I'm telling you. But there was a gap, and that need to be filled. And usually who makes a CEO general, from my experience, 20 years plus, were sales and people closer to the field. And that was the gap. So now it's being filled, and I'm very optimistic it's getting better and better. That's
So there's still the problem with the progression program and the succession program.
yes.
There's that lap, or let's say the hurdle. Yeah.
Yes.
I can answer that a little bit, just because we're actually part of a report right now we're doing with Tamkeen on talent in Bahrain, so the fintech space. And it's actually really fascinating for us in terms of, like a couple of months ago, I was in Saudi and one of our fintechs, and I walked into the office and half the office of Bahrainis. We are now going to a point where we are exporting our talent. It's a matter of time. We're exporting talent. The head of LinkedIn was a Bahraini. We have the head of the one fintech thing, she's Bahraini. So it's a matter of time. It's not a matter of lack of opportunities, and this is what's happening. And I do see that happening. That kind of role of everything for Bahrain and CEOs. But if you want to go that direction, it's a great thing to be seeing that Saudi Arabia, a lot of Bahrainis are in the job atmosphere and the workplace. We're able to speak Arabic, English, and be able to communicate with outside and the local. So there's a lot of great things that are happening. It's a matter of time. And maybe there is a Bahraini out there you don't know that's the CEO of some global thing. She just doesn't say she's Bahraini. But there are a lot of people out there that are doing well. But you're right. It's a long way to go. But if you want to look at percentages, we are. It's many things. We're a small country.
Globally, it's not something just
global. It's been pathways. Yeah. But I was quite amazed to see that more and more I go outside and I find Bahrainis in Dubai and Bahrainis in senior positions. Yeah.
Even the UK.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, good evening. My name is Josephine Moss. I'm with UN Women Bahrain. And my question is, thank you very much. It's been really interesting hearing your experiences, particularly the efforts that your diverse entities have been making to support women's participation and leadership in the tech sector, particularly this Restart program, bringing them in career breaks. It's really important because we know that part of that gender pay gap is because women do tend to be more likely to take career breaks during the course of their working life. My question is more around how have you come up with any ways to measure the impact of women's specific talents, the contribution that they make, not just to the bottom line of the company, but to the overall cultural change within the company? Where we know that women have certain soft skills that may impact positively the workspace, that may in fact contribute to increasing the bottom line for the investments made in the company. Do you take those issues into consideration when you're measuring progress towards your KPIs? And do you have any innovations that you could share on that? Because it's something that we're really looking at as we also try to support the case for more women in the tech sector. Thank you.
Actually, there are two things that help. One of them, when we had the Corona era and working from home, that helped more people, more women to join and retain. And now we have partially back to office, and some of them still working, and we have many skills. We are funding some of the certification and some of the enabling them. There are programs. We have a couple of programs internally. We call it manager at office, for example, so she can shadow a manager. We have a couple of certifications for the skills culture of innovation, champion of innovation. We have some of them, we call them working backward ambassadors, and also we have some of the programs to enable them to even work at the front end with the customer and deliver this. So it's not only contribution to the bottom line, it's also to change the culture and make it more inclusive. So that's many of those is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, just to add to what Bilal was saying, I think one of the most fascinating KPIs, if you look at attrition, and if you are able to correlate attrition with leadership, and if you believe in the principle that people don't leave companies, they leave bosses. Yeah. So if you can establish that correlation between attrition and leadership, and then look at those two, and then I think you'll find some fascinating things.
Yeah, I think we have one more last question here, but I think we need to wrap it up. I think we're done with time. So if there's anything else, otherwise I'm sticking around for a little bit if anybody wants to catch up. I know that States as well. And thank you so much, Holly, for joining us from there. Thank you, everybody, Amjad, then on the other side, and thank you, of course, my esteemed panelists. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Do you want to speak?
Yeah, just closing notes. First, I want to thank you all for joining us today and for this great conversation. The panelists' insights were super invaluable, whether from recognizing the importance of harnessing women's potential and emphasizing the need of allyship and implementing gender-inclusive initiatives. Each of these perspectives actually deepened the conversation and our work. We also thank you for sharing your organization's work and effort in empowering women and creating an enabling environment for them to continue to grow and succeed in Bahrain. Our dialogue today actually reaffirmed our conviction that female leadership and gender equality are integral part for a kind of a holistic development of societies, whether in Bahrain or worldwide. We have the similar images going on. Just want to remember that while Bahrain made a huge progress, we're still on the journey together. We're here to continue to identify, address, and overcome any of the challenges. I want to thank the panelists, Susie, the keynote speakers, and every one of you for participating. Special thanks for Dana from Bahrain Embassy, Ali and Linda from the US Embassy in Manama, Amira, Dua, Haura, and all the Atlantic Council team, because you made this event come true. And thank you all for attending. Have a great evening.